call this meeting to order. We have 4 board members present. Mr. Thurston, Ms. Paris, Ms. Nelson, and myself. Lisa Hoffman is on via video. And I know Fernando Vargas said he's not going to be able to be here, and Dorothy Stenger may be here later in the meeting. Pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Comment. Public. Item 3, official guest discourse none, approval of the minutes. So you should have a copy of the minutes from our last board meeting.
Under correct tab, they should be there.
If you had a chance to look at those, do we have any changes or corrections to those minutes?
No.
We have a motion to approve.
Move that we approve as written.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I vote aye for the record. Lisa?
She voted aye.
She voted aye. Okay. Motion passes. Financial update on bank account establishment.
The good news is we have the bank account settled. So we have the donation account, the original donation account at EFCU, Hank, myself, Dorothy as signers. We have the new EFCU account, which is the school generated funds account. Hank and myself are signers. And then we have the Nevada State Bank, which is the operations account, which has not changed through all of this.
Right.
So we have a total of 3 accounts, all of them are set up, and we did it. So good job.
So you have the donation, the EFCU checking, and then the Nevada State Bank. Is that right? I missed the second one in my notes.
Yeah, donation, donation,
Got it.
school generated funds,
School generated. Thank
both
you.
at EFCU, and then operations in SB.
So I have a question about that. I was at EFCU today to transfer the money into the operations account.
Okay,
So you will have 300,000 in there as soon as that transfer goes through.
awesome.
But apparently with the school generated funds account, there's a checking and a savings with that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
What's the plan and how we use checkings or savings on that?
I think, have to have the savings per the bank, and so that will just, I don't think we need the savings.
We have $5 in there just to keep it open
Just
and,
keep it open, and
yeah.
then we'll function out of the checking.
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Sorry, I missed that. So we had, how much do you have to have in savings?
$5.
Well, that's it?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
We can afford that.
Yeah, the bank requires that all the account has a savings and a checking. So the school generated fund account has a checking and a savings.
Yeah, I know that's typical of the accounts we have there. The savings to go along with it.
Yeah.
Okay, did we have any other, Hank, do you have anything else on financial?
No, the only other update is, like I just alluded to, we took 250,000 out of the donations account, transferred that into the checking account, the EFCU checking account, which had a balance of about 63,000 in it. So out of that entire balance of 312,000, we transferred 300,000 into the Nevada State Bank operational account. I did that over lunch. It's a big number, so that'll probably clear in a day or two, but once that's cleared, that's available for operational use. That leaves us with about 85,000 plus or minus in the donations account and about 10,000 in the EFCU checking.
Okay, so are you at a point now with our tax number, all the situations, so you can start purchasing?
Yes, we received our tax form, the tax letter yesterday in the mail. So now we can start rocking and rolling.
Okay, good.
So,
Okay, so I took notes up until 5, we're
Thanks.
starting on 6.
And just for the record, Dorothy is here now, so
Sorry to be late, guys.
no problem. Right, anything else on number 5? Questions? No, moving on to number 6, school leader report.
all right, so the written one is in your binder under current meeting. The 2 education aspects, YouTube videos, one on the True, the Good, the Beautiful. There'll be an article coming out on everything Elko on that, but if you wanna check out that YouTube. And then Joe had sent out this Transforming Teacher Stress into Strength YouTube. So things to watch and to get us thinking as educators. So we'll just roll through this report. Fostering classical education, again, writing the 3rd part. So the 3rd part of classical essence for everything Elko is how do we experience classical? So the first part was what is classical? The second part was what is the true, the good, and the beautiful? And the 3rd part will be how do we experience classical? That ties into the art donation that I had mentioned last meeting. So the art team was here again today, finalizing the suggestions of art to fill the halls of the building, which we will then have a donation drive via the website, which so Liz was here today and we were talking about logistics and all of that sort of thing. So that all ties together. And so in March, in the everything Elko, the thinking is, we'll talk about how do you experience art, or how do you experience classical, and one of those ways is through beautiful art. And then right there next to it, like it was this last month, will be, you wanna be interested in donating art to the school, go here. So we'll have that all seamless if everything works fine. So that's that. I'm taking this Foundational Principles of Liberty class with freedomshare.org, and it's absolutely fascinating and I'm loving it. It's a half hour on Wednesday mornings. So number 2, leadership team payroll. Just to report, the payroll is up and functioning. We get paid on the 10th and the 24th, and I think we've got all those hiccups worked out, so that's good news. Nothing to report with regards to staff management. Instructional staff, the faculty, hiring, teacher applicants were reviewed. There weren't very many that were, that made it to the next step. So I'm going to create a teacher-specific recruiting document, and Kim and Joe and Amy, I'll run that by you guys to see if we have the right language that will be attractive, and then we'll start floating that with some more specifics for teachers, because maybe they just need a little more information. And then Cam, we'll talk about this later in the agenda, but we are working on the contract and stipend document so that when we have teachers, we have that prepared. And same instructional aid, support aid, and counselor, that's all in the works. As you know, the school calendar is on the website. That's number 5. Nothing. Go
back to 4.
Yeah.
So instructional aid, support aid, and counselor. How do we have that, the counselor position? Is it a / social worker, or how did we, do you remember, how did we put that in our?
I was even thinking instructional aid and support aid. We have an instructional coach.
Right, but the counselor
Which
one
was
is
more academic, and then support aid, and then we almost have to look, because we went back and forth a couple times, because we didn't do social worker, but maybe we might have like left, sometimes you can't find a licensed counselor, but you can find a licensed social worker, or vice versa.
Yep, and I checked with the state on that, and they said, because I know a couple people who are retired social workers that might be interested
Yeah.
in potentially here, but they said you have to have it listed as that. And they said it's an easy thing to do if we don't have it listed that way. But depending on, because a certified counselor is different than a certified social worker, but either one will be okay as long as we specify in our application and our descriptions. And we have a job description for it, set up that way. So I don't know if people are signing up for that or not, but if there's.
We
a
haven't even
direct-
put it out there yet, because I'm trying to figure that out, like, how do we put it out there, so.
So we may
Do a
We
joint
may need
thing.
to be able to do that. Seems like we had it written in there, or they had a requirement.
Do you remember? do you
Social
remember?
work.
There's not a requirement for a social worker, but I know a lot of schools are having trouble finding licensed counselors, so they're shifting, so, and social workers have a ton of grant money attached to them, where counselors don't.
And is it a full-time position, the counselor? Starting out,
Depends on,
I think we
Well, we
did
can
that
afford
just
it,
for
I think.
liability, but if we could find one that does counseling slash
Special ed
something like that, speech
Yeah.
therapy or
would be the perfect
nurse.
person. Yes,
I think we budgeted originally for full,
It's
but I don't
full-time.
know that
we had budgeted it for
have the-
full-time.
Yeah,
if we had to have full-time or just have someone that fills that.
we
Could
get
be
full-time,
part-time.
there'll be other duties as assigned for sure. We have to fill a lot of hats.
See, some of these people that retired from the state can still earn up to 27 some odd thousand and not interrupt their PERS. Well, if they came 3 days a week or something, they're not gonna, and we're not paying them benefits, that's benefits
Great
us, and we
thing.
get great people
Yeah,
with a lot of experience to help us. Okay,
it's a great.
sorry for interrupting there, but
No, all good, yeah, so those are on my to-do list. Some of these haven't changed, I just keep reminding you, school calendar is on the website, scheduled trainings for teachers have been scheduled. MailChimp continues to develop, and then we decided, Amber and I were talking, and we're going to start, the school leader newsletter will begin in March, which will go out to the families that have enrolled, that have applied. So just to start that communication of how the schools, what we have going now, and so that they can stay excited and they engage with us. We are up to 82, I think, applications. I know we're over 80.
That's
We're
awesome.
either 82 or 83, because one came in later today.
so are any over, like kindergarten, we did lottery
Nope,
for any grade levels?
not yet, for any grade level.
That's great.
I think we have 33 kinders. I think, if I remember. Yeah, so it's cool, because like every day we get one or two, they just trickle in, so
Yay.
that's good.
Yeah.
And on a side note to that, I joined the Chamber of Commerce for the school. So we get free advertisement through their Friday happenings and all that. And one of the applications today was from the chamber. So within
Yay.
like 2 days, it's already
Paid off.
I'm like, yes, that was a good thought. So, yeah, that worked out. Cause I was trying to think how else we can advertise.
Well, we've had lots of radio stuff.
Yeah.
I think most of it started this week. I know the one with Global One that I did was an hour. And
Yes, that was long.
that was supposed to air today at noon on their talk radio. I don't know who's gonna sit there for an hour and listen to that, but
People driving.
I said some good stuff.
Yeah, you did well. You were
And
pretty
then
well.
the commercials from that station, I think we're supposed to start this week. But I've yet to talk to anybody who's heard those, so I
Yes.
don't know how that's working out or not.
Yep, we have our radio here. We turn on and try to catch one and see if we can hear. So we'll continue engaging with our parents / community. The employee handbook is in legal review, and that's one of our items, I think, so we can talk more about that later. Regarding relationships, governing board, I have nothing to report that I know of. State Public Charter School Authority, where I'm attending the trainings, and there's a couple, like one a week or every other week. All sorts of things. I'm just getting so smart. I'm learning so much, which is awesome because it's very helpful to be trained. So that's going well. And I'm in communication too with Katie regarding, you guys remember hearing about Epicenter, and that's where all those tasks are uploaded to. So a friendly reminder, I'll be in Greece March 2nd to the 12th. So I've let Katie know, and that some of our tasks will be delinquent because we have to wait for our next board meeting, which is the 15th. And so I'm letting you all know that communication has happened and we're all like on the same page with regards to that. So I'm really enjoying the relationship with SBCSA right now, because they're super supportive and helpful, so. And then I have a monthly call with Ben Payne, he's our friend, if you remember, from Hillsdale. And that's more just me telling him where we are, and he says, sounds good, and, which is great. So I can answer all of his questions, and he has no concerns as far as our progression, so that's good. So we'll continue doing that. Bank accounts are established for the budget, like I mentioned, so, and thank you, Hank, for being proactive on that money transfer, so we can start planning out our purchases. State testing requirements, this is one of our epicenter tasks that I've been working on behind the scenes. So Friday, we have a call with NWEA to learn more about the map and what they can, just for their pitch about assessment. And then the kindergarten assessment is now called GOLD. From teaching strategies, it's called the kindergarten entry assessment, but I'm not sure where GOLD comes from, but they call it GOLD. So I have a call with them to learn more about that. And then all that will be communicated to the state when we decide what our assessment plan is.
So is that taking the place of Brugance?
Yes,
Got it.
GOLD takes
Okay.
the place of Brigance.
Okay.
So again, communicating with Katie and letting them know that we're trying to figure out what our assessment plan is, because it's very important that we don't over-assess our children. So she understood, so we're gonna figure out what that looks like after I meet with both of these vendors.
So on kindergarten entrance assessment, can you explain, because maybe not everybody understands, so what do we do with that then? So when is it given and what is that information used for?
As I understand it, it has to be done within, is it 30 days of the first day of
Brigance was 30
school?
days.
Yeah, 30 days. And it's supposed to help the teacher make instructional decisions about where the class is, like where all the children are. So I've been told Brigance took about 15 minutes per child, and oftentimes it was done before school started as part of like parent-teacher conferences. They would bring the kids in. Gold, if I'm understanding correctly, takes 40 minutes per child, which that's like a game changer, because if you have 22 kids, 40 minutes, you guys do the math, that's a chunk of time. So we will learn more about that. That's part of my questions, and then figure out how to schedule that, because I don't think it will. We'll want to be considerate that it'd be better to get done before school than trying to add that onto the teacher during the first month, right? Like it's already enough. So, but 40 minutes a child, that's a lot of time.
Is that by computer or
No, it's like watching
observation?
them. It's much more
hands-on?
hands-on and allowing them to do, and the teachers like marking. And I think if there's 30, is it 27 or 35, a number of assessment points that these teachers marking, and as they're watching this child interact. Social, academic, all of it, like is on this.
And it's individual, not
It's
group.
done individually,
And is it mandatory?
yes.
Well, it sounds like to me 40 minutes for a little kid is way out there, you know.
And maybe I
Times
misunderstood.
25 kids too.
Yeah, and I may have misunderstood the 40 minutes, but it seems like it's more intense than the Brigance.
Yeah.
So stand by for that. So we'll have to strategize that once I
Yeah.
learn more.
Yeah, I'd like to see what options we have, because that's a loss of instructional time for a person who, by that point in the school year, already knows where those kids are at.
Or you do it before school starts and stipend them. Have each kid come in at a scheduled time and give them 3 days for the teachers to get to all their kids.
If we can do it that way.
That would be more strategic. Plus then they kind of know, okay, here's my kids, these guys know this much, these, they already know your.
Definitely before
Skill.
school. Doesn't make sense to wait
Yeah.
30 days after school. Does that make sense?
Some places delay kindergarten start for a week and they get all that stuff done, but that's not good for our curriculum.
So stay tuned. We'll figure, as I learn more and truly understand what the assessment looks like, we'll schedule that appropriately. Marketing postcards should be going out here soon. They're finalized at PNCC. 1,900 postcards will be going out. Radio, like Joe said, is hot and rolling, and flyers to preschools are going out later tomorrow or next week. Nothing on disciplinary policy yet. Facility maintenance, wireless is alive and well, so if anyone wants to get on, you can. And we're all hardwired through, so that's great. In conversation with the IT person, Daniel, the first year we won't have a server because it's $15,000 and we want to spend that money other places, but we do have a backup for Amber's computer, which will house all of the Infinite Campus. That'll be the main computer for the Infinite Campus database and all the enrollment. So we have a backup system, but we won't dive into servers yet.
And we can throw a NASA array together for 2,000 and that'll back up everything in the building.
All right, so we can talk about other options.
There's other options.
So, but the good news is, like I said, the wiring, we're all live, it should be all up and going now. The office, since I wrote this yesterday, the offices have been painted. So before you leave today, go check out how beautiful they look. The floor is prepped, and I suspect the floor will be in here in a few days.
So did they accelerate their plan? I mean, did they bring,
They're just working the plan.
okay,
So it looks really good. It looks very, it's a nice color. Emergency plan, saying we're working on that in the behind the scenes, and then no succession plan, because Lord willing, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
I'm not in front of a bus.
I look both ways every time, even though it's a one-way street, I always look that way just
You
in
never know, I
case.
went the wrong way leaving. the other day.
So yes, any questions on school leader?
Oh, I did have one.
Yes.
On number 5, the school calendar, Elko just changed their calendar. Are we just going, we're going with ours.
We're going with ours.
Okay.
We're not gonna
They're
chase
gonna
the,
have different start dates.
They're starting
It's
like 2 weeks
way
earlier.
early in August or something, way before
Parent, I
us.
just thought with the parents who may have 2 kids, 5th and 8th and one, but you know what, it's 1 year and then we'll try to marry up with them. Because we have to get our planning and our training and everything, so.
yeah, and early on when I heard the schedule that they were negotiating in their calendar, I intentionally made the choice that we are not gonna chase Elko County. We're gonna do our thing, and we're still inside of them, so I think it should be fine.
I think that's a wise decision
Yeah.
myself. I think we should do things on our own.
Yeah.
Not dependent on them.
We'll always be aware, and like I said, I like if we're inside of, so we don't start before, like our calendar is inside of their calendar, our school day is inside of their school day, so we're not expecting more from the parents with regards to beyond those dates, we're inside. So in other words, like they'll already be in school, they'll just maybe have to figure out childcare for a child that's not in school yet.
I
But
think
we're
the
not,
big one is like your spring breaks and your holidays, and then
Yeah.
we can't pull it off year one, but parents don't wanna have, my kindergarten and 3rd grade on this spring break and my 4th and 5th grader on this. But the
did they
first
change
year,
their spring break?
I
I'll
don't
check.
believe they did, but that's the one we could
Okay,
change.
I'll check that.
We could change
We could
something like that,
definitely do
'cause
that, 'cause,
that's,
yeah, we don't want that.
yeah,
Okay, I will confirm spring break and Christmas break.
yeah, other than that. Yeah. the other ones are
I'm glad they
yeah.
settled on something though. I know that is a pretty contentious issue for them.
I think as long as we continue to focus on what's best for the kid, not what's best for the adults, we'll be fine.
I totally agree. All right, so that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, committee reports, bylaw and procedure committee.
Is Lisa calling in or no?
She's,
Who's on,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
not very well,
no,
Barely, but yes.
is there,
Can you turn it up?
I cannot anymore.
talk louder.
Okay. How about, is this a little better? Okay. I will talk as loudly as I can. First, my apologies for not being there in person. We ended up with sick kids, so I'm home with them. But I can hear you all fine, so that's good news. So we heard back from legal review of the board manual version that this board looked at. I incorporated all of the comments and edits that each of you sent after the last board meeting. And then that was the version that was sent to Katie McConnell for legal review. I've forwarded this to Brandolyn so she can pull it up there. I just wanted to walk through the comments from Katie so that the board can look at them, see if there are any issues, and then vote on this today. They're very minor comments, most of them. And so on page 1, there were a couple of places where she changed the word these to the bylaws, since these aren't bylaws. On page 2, she reworked, about halfway down, she reworked one sentence just to say in compliance with NAC, board membership shall not include any of the following. Which doesn't change the sentence content at all. On page 3, she recommended adding NRS chapter 241 regarding the open meeting law. And then she made a couple of edits under E, removed the word that, and then added in regular meetings per year to that section. I think it was just a missing word there. If you keep scrolling down, K, vacancies, she changed a couple of, again, minor words, changed in to on, added the, so very, very simple edits. Under O for closed sessions, she made some recommendations related to open meeting law and just leaving it at open meeting law, not defining it as much as we had defined it in that section. So she took out some content that she deemed unnecessary. If you keep scrolling down, there was a hyperlink under page 6 under B, Code of Ethics. There's a hyperlink that I think it's going to be easier to just remove the hyperlinks for now, since we don't have a location where all of these documents live. We can re-add the hyperlinks later if there's an easy way for people to pull up the PDF and then have access to the hyperlink, rather than having hyperlinks that don't take the reader to any other location. Under D, conflict of interest, she changed the last sentence in the first paragraph to read, this includes avoiding, instead of real and potential conflicts, she changed it to read avoiding actual, perceived, and potential conflicts of interest. And then in the next 2 paragraphs later in the same section, changed real to actual a second time. Under section G for non-discrimination, Joe, you had made a recommendation about potentially reducing or removing that list. She recommends that we leave it since it's still standard and that we change it later if we need to.
SPCSA said the same thing.
Lisa, I also printed that out from Katie today, and so I have it here with her comments in the sideline, so.
Great.
Here needs to look at it, they can.
Okay, fantastic. Under section I, public records request, she fixed a numbering issue. And that was it. So any questions or comments on any of those edits?
I think it looks good.
Nice job, team.
So we weren't missing anything, right? She didn't have anything to add or
Nope.
good work.
And you're getting rid of all of the hyperlinks.
Yes.
Yeah, people can come in and request a document.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I think at some point we may want to add them in if that seems like it will be helpful. And if not, then we'll just have them all removed and keep them out.
So do you feel this is ready for approval?
I think now that we have looked through it as a board, we've had the legal review, and this aligns with a lot of the requirements that we know are out there. I think it's time to make a motion to approve it with Katie's edits, and get it, in place. And then remember that it is a living document that we can edit it or add to it as needed, as we go forward and see what else might be here. But I think we're ready.
Okay, good. Any other questions or discussion? Do we have a motion?
Just looking for the title. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the Nevada Classical Academy Elko Governing Board Policies and Procedures Manual as with the recommended adjustments. There were edits.
Okay, we have a second.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? I vote aye. Motion carries. That was a lot of work. Thank you,
Yeah, that's
the
great.
groups that you guys have worked on that.
Yeah, just
Yes.
listen to answer in any kind of motion since I worked on the document, right?
You're right.
Thank you, and I will, Brandon, I will go through and fix these edits, and then I will send you the final text version.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you for your hard work.
Okay, old business. And A, discuss and dissolve board committees. If you remember a few meetings back, we've gone through some of our requirements and it talked about getting committees established. And so we did that. And then we went through the training, which Brandon has it up here, queued to the point where I think Hank asked a question in that meeting about committees. And they clarified that it was more, well, no, you really don't have to have those established quite yet. So I asked Brandon to have it up here to play so we all hear the same thing. And then we'll decide what to do with our existing committees that we have. So
So
I don't
this,
know if Lisa will be able to hear that or see it.
He was at the meeting.
She was at, okay.
Yeah, I think Lisa's in favor of the fewer committees better. Is that not right, Lisa?
Well, let's listen to it and then we'll decide what we're.
so this is where she introduces it as a topic on this slide, and then I know where Hank asks the questions. You wanna listen to both or just go to where Hank asks the question?
Well, the topic was,
This is establish board committees to further the strategic plan and school goals. So this is where she talks about
right,
committees.
and that's where we,
That's the part I think we should listen to because I think all of us at one point, because we were all in shock, then at one point or another said, now you mean what you're telling us is we don't have to have these. But I'd like to hear what she said because I think she was
Okay.
super clear that
let's
start
put
off
it-
with, if you're gonna start with one, keep it simple, right?
Yeah, she did said one committee.
Less in finance or something.
Okay, ready?
Here we go.
Oh, let me make sure.
Volume up.
Volume maximum. Okay.
Committees to further the strategic plan and school goals. I'm gonna tell you, committees are great. I am 100% an advocate of committees. We implemented committees at my school. I will also tell you that establishing board committees is pretty advanced. It is not something that we typically see in first year schools. So don't put too much pressure on yourself about this one, but maybe it's part of the long-term goal that by year 3, you are establishing committees, or maybe, you set a goal in the second year, we're gonna have a finance committee. And in the third year, we're gonna have a finance and a governance committee. And by the fourth year, we're gonna have a finance, academic, and governance committee. However you do it, know that committees can be incredibly helpful, but it is also, you have to be fairly sophisticated because each one of those committees has to follow open meeting law, and there are rules about how subcommittees work. So don't bite that off before you're ready, because otherwise it can lead to violations of the law. But once you're ready, they can make your board meetings so much more efficient. Next up.
Okay. So that was that. And then do you want to hear the question or you guys are good?
yeah, because that's,
Okay.
then it gets, Clark, she talks a little more extensively at that part point.
Okay. 31 should be right.
Governance standards as approved by the authority board. And it's okay if you're not, but I'm just gonna give a little bit of wait time because I see some of the groups talking, so I wanna just
Is that when you get a
make
big shot?
sure
That was
if
us,
that
yeah.
I watched
turns into a
it.
question or not.
Oh, we were all freaking out.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
we're just like.
I could tell.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, are we muted there? No. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Yeah, so we were just discussing a little bit about the committees. You said that that's typically something you see in a more developed board and not something that we really need to focus on in the first year or two. We were under the understanding that several of those committees were required to be stood up, either by your policy or by state law. Is that not the case?
look, having some of those committees is very helpful. But again, they all have to follow open meeting law. They
Right.
all have to, so this is what I'll tell you. The first year that I was running a school, right, like it's normally the school principal working with the board chair. The school principal is doing all the work, developing that board agenda and working with the chair to make sure like, but who's doing the work? Not the board chair generally, in my experience, right? And so sometimes when you are just starting out running a school, just getting that one public meeting off the ground, getting all the materials out in advance, getting it posted in compliance with open meeting law, that's a pretty heavy lift for staff at a new school. If they can manage it and you can be doing more, great, more power to you. But keep in mind, that's multiple agendas that have to be created. That's multiple chairs that you're working with. That's a lot of documents that you are prepping and getting ready, right? So let me just give you an example, right? I had finance committee, a governance committee, and an academic committee. And a regularly scheduled board meeting every single month. There's a lot of work that goes into every single one of those. There's a lot of documents that go before every single one of those. There's a lot of backward planning to ensure. So like, for example, on our board, the school improvement plan, it wouldn't come before the whole board until the academic committee had signed off on it. Our budget would not come before the whole board until the finance committee had signed off on it. No policy would come before the whole board before the governance committee had signed off on it. So when it came to our board meetings, yeah, they went pretty quick because we were like, yeah, the governance committee signed off on this, great. Yes, the budget committee went through this budget line item by line item, so it's a quicker process in the general public meeting. But again, there's a lot of backwards planning that has to happen to do that and make, and you know, and comply with open meeting law. So, I mean, yeah, it can be done, but it's gonna be a heavy lift for a staff who is already dealing with a pretty steep learning curve.
Melissa,
So-
this is Dorothy Stenninger. Can I want to just make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So we as the board thought that the SPCSA required us to have all these committees in our first year. But what I'm hearing you say is that is not necessarily the case. We can establish whatever committee we think may be necessary and then leave the rest till a time when we can manage it, you know, just time-wise and everything else. Am I
Yeah.
hearing you correct?
Yeah, 100%. And if I were you, I would start with the finance committee. Because the
Okay,
budget, it's the most complicated, and it's helpful to have a few members of your board and then some other people, parents maybe, where you dig in like literally line item by line item. Those people understand that budget so thoroughly. Like that's what I would start with personally. But you might decide like, no, I mean, those are the common committees we see. That doesn't mean you have to do those, right? You might find that something else is more applicable or useful to you, right? You might be like, actually, there's another one we want to add, right? I would not add a committee until you are effectively running a normal open meeting law meeting. And By effectively doing that, I'm also including the fact that you're getting board materials out in advance for your board to review. Right? So if you can't do that for a regularly scheduled board meeting, don't start trying to add in a bunch of committees because you're gonna be drowning. Set some goals, like, okay, maybe by the first 6 months, we're gonna start finance committee. Then next year, we're gonna add another one, and then the next year, another one.
Yeah, Melissa, that's really helpful to us because we were confused. And I
Yeah.
mean, we were struggling with that because we didn't think, we thought that was, like you say, a huge, heavy lift. We thought you guys required it, so we were scrambling around to figure out how we were gonna establish all these committees, how were we gonna get the agendas out, how we were gonna comply with all the open meeting requirements. So we are really delighted to hear that we can go a little bit backwards and do this in a reasonable fashion, which makes sense.
Go slow to go fast, right? Like you gotta get a handle on just having a regularly scheduled board meeting and then slowly work your way up. Like these are the standards. You're not gonna, it's kind of like the kindergarten standards. You're not expected to know it on the first day of kindergarten. You're expected to know it by the end of kindergarten, right? Your board is not going to be perfect at all of these standards right out of the chute. But if you're constantly striving to stay on top of this stuff and prioritizing what's the most important and building on it, you're just going to get stronger and stronger as a board. And the winner there is the students in your school.
Yeah.
But yeah, please don't even try to start out with that.
Okay, so now we've all reheard that again. So what, we established what? We established a finance.
Bluetooth. I think we should abolish it.
We have a finance, we have a.
Yeah, that's just a lot of.
No, wait a minute. We have finance, the governance,
Fundraising.
fundraising.
And
Did we have?
Here, I can find it, guys, hang on, have to go back in your archive.
January? No, it was December.
It was December.
Yes, we have specific people identified to be on those, board to be on those committees.
Yeah, and that was a flaw too, because I mean, you don't have enough people on our board to staff these committees. We need to reach out to people.
We only needed one per.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for taking her advice.
Well, I'm not saying that they have to meet. They've been established, and at whatever point in time that, it comes up that now we have to have a subgroup meet to do something, those people have already been established. We can unestablish those and reestablish them later, or we can leave them and they're not meeting. Right? So to me,
I think that
right now with all of us being informed is more important than a subgroup working on the side. Because I think we're functional that way. So finance, unless Hank feels he needs a subcommittee to work on all of that, to me, it's better disclosed in the large group. Governance is used for when we let's say we have 10 applicants trying to fill one board seat. And we don't want to do all that in a board meeting. Then the governance group would have to set that aside and figure out who's going to be in that next board meeting or who's going to be the next person and come with a recommendation. Right now, we don't have that issue. Fundraising, I think we already established that that's going to be not a agendized group, right? But we talked about that last time. We don't want that committee being a established board committee. So if we eliminate one, that may be academics. That would be at some point when Brandolin wants to do that. So it's, I was thinking about that earlier. We have people on the board appointed to run those, but we only need to do those if needed. Otherwise, we keep it all at the board level. Or we vote to remove them all, but we have expansion to. was the other one.
Well, all we've done is identify a chair for each of these committees, right?
Exactly.
So at that point, we can treat it as an ad hoc committee, and if we need to task that group out, we can just assign some people to the chairman and they can go do that.
So having it established doesn't mean they're,
Yeah, to do anything.
I'm for taking stuff off Brandon's plate, obviously. And if we can run it in front of everybody, then we're all in the know, not a subcommittee out there just doing extra work. So that's my thoughts. So now, let's hear your thoughts. Whether we want to abolish them and then at whatever point bring them back, or leave it as is and only use them if we need them later on.
I just think that the structure and of this board may change. So I don't see establishing committees that maybe there's gonna be people that aren't even on the board anymore that are chairs of committees. I mean, I think that's a waste of time.
I had a similar thought to Joe earlier today that we can just have these committees. They can be available if we need them. We don't have to go through this again. And reestablish them at some point if we do decide, you know, when we do decide that we need the committees. If we could just keep them established but don't have any meetings, it doesn't cause any additional work at this point.
So Lisa, what about fundraising? Because we talked about that one before of, you know, you guys are doing fundraising kind of as a, you know, it's kind of being done outside of the board, not as a agendized, have to meet, you know, open meeting law requirements committee.
What we did is we had a couple of us meet as a working group to discuss the path forward for fundraising. I don't expect that group is going to meet regularly. Later on the agenda, we'll talk about the path forward for fundraising, but that group that met isn't going to be, say, a fundraising group that's going to go out and do all of the fundraising. So I think at some point we will need to have a committee for fundraising because we'll be doing bigger things like maybe an event or, you know, a real fundraising activity that's going to require more hands than just the couple of us who met to talk about what the strategy should be. So I think even that one we can, I could go either way, but we could keep a committee and just say that, you know, that committee will meet when it needs to. Or we can get rid of the fundraising committee and just use the working group as needed.
Okay, thank you. So here's an example, because it's on the agenda later, about a possible land donation. Right, if there's a committee that's out there working to try to do that, then they have to agendize that, follow open meeting law, and all of that process. In this example, here it's just coming to the board, and we all are aware it's not going to a committee, and you know that works, right? Because somebody brought it up. We all learn about it and then we all make a decision about it. So we're not really using a committee, but at some point when we're expanding and fundraising and doing a lot more because we're trying to build that building and things, then that committee may kick in and have to be going, but not right at this minute. That's kind of how I perceive it, but.
I think the idea for me was, was so grateful to hear that, but when it gets so cumbersome, these meetings, we need to streamline things. We have these working teams. I'm super confident with the, you know, financial folks. If it gets to a point where things get really cumbersome, but we're dealing with pretty intense stuff, we might need 3 people to all sit on an actual committee. Once you get that 3 people, and we have to agendize it, and we gotta get the public, and maybe when we start working on big land things or big development and construction projects, it just so this meeting doesn't turn into 12 land developers telling us what they're gonna do. We have a separate committee for that, and then we just bring a recommendation. Right now, I don't see that need. I'm very confident with the working team approach.
I don't care one way or the other if we keep them in place, if somebody thinks we have to change them out. We can dissolve them or not, I don't know that that matters. But I'm confident with the team approach right now because I don't think we're big enough or have big enough things going on. They're gonna bog us down.
See, and on that point, let's go back to the land donation. So we could start having discussions about, and that's not just a simple thing, right? There's a lot involved with getting property.
Correct.
So I want to be able to, as chairman, say, okay, there's too much for us to figure out involved in this. So that's the expansion committee and possibly the fundraising, or maybe it is just the expansion committee. I want to be able in that, whenever something comes up like that, in that meeting, say, okay, Amy, you're the chairman of the expansion committee. You need to now get a group together to look into that deeper and report back to us. I don't want to at that meeting say, okay, now we have to go establish the chairman and do all that. It'd be nice to have that in place where we can just say, okay, there's a committee chairman out there. We feel that maybe we vote on it as a board and say, we want that committee to now go bring us back information.
Agendize, open meeting, bring the developers into it. So it's more ad hoc, like you use them if you needed them.
Kim, what's your thoughts? Yeah.
I'm kind of with Amy. I think it would work fine either way. When we were in the board development seminar at Hillsdale, they discussed trying not to have as many committees as possible. And what you're saying is if when we need one, then you develop that committee or form that. And then when they're done, then that committee is over and done with. Yeah, they were very, very adamant on not having committees. Good.
Okay, and we weren't required. The audit risk governance, I think were the two. Was that the only two that were required?
In the
By
presentation, they have finance, academic, and governance committees.
the academic, okay.
We
Yeah,
have a list
required.
list for them.
It can all be wording piece for now.
Fundraising and expansion aren't, that's one we had just talked about is because we're gonna have to expand by year 4, we need to be prepared for that ahead of time.
Yeah, because at one point I asked towards the end of the meeting and she said, she used the example of the academic team. She said, your principal will bring in a couple of, staff for the school improvement plan and the kind of the academic teams, and maybe one, maybe even 2 people on the board, but it would still be a working team. You don't want to make it a public open meeting with all the legal possibilities of us messing something up. Not reporting it, not posting it. So she said, even your academic team, the longer you can drive that, she said that right then, that can be your 3. If you even ever need to make it super formal. It's only the boss down
task
that-
force
Yeah,
that you're creating.
we wouldn't need one. I mean, school districts don't have them, but not.
No, they have committees to do things like look at the calendar.
Right.
Because it's when they get to be in
Sure,
contention.
it's ad hoc.
We don't even have academic as one.
Yeah. She didn't seem to think you need one for a while. If that.
Okay, so our agenda item is discuss and dissolve board committees. So do we have any action that we want to propose with our existing committees?
Brenda, what's your thought? Because the weight of it does fall, and that's what I love about Melissa and she's lived this. So she knows that it's, even though we might talk about committees, the bulk of it's gonna fall on the principal. What's your thought on dissolving or not dissolving?
I think that you could go either way. I think there's value in having them. If we need them, they're set. I can also see not having them and setting when we need them. But I do like the idea that they are dormant until further time. That is the
We
key.
all
I think.
agree on that,
Mhm.
right? That we don't want
Yeah.
putting more on you. We really don't have a need to.
Yeah.
Audit risk governance expansion. I can't make the motions, but the fundraising one as a board committee, I don't know that that's one we would keep. Unless somebody thinks that should be an actual board committee.
Well, the people that sat on that task force the other day don't think it should be. I mean, that does not help us. Makes our life a whole lot more complicated.
Okay,
So
so
we could dissolve that one and make that just a working.
It's not even, well, yeah, whatever.
right there is a board committee. So that's what I'm asking someone to make the,
I'll make a motion, we dissolve the,
there we go.
fundraising committee and shift it to a working team.
I'll second it.
Are you only dissolving?
I would say just dissolving, but you're keeping all.
We
the
can go one at a time. We know that one we want to dissolve for sure.
And the other ones would be in place in case we need them.
Yeah. Just leave them dormant. Dormant, and unless we get something that's starting to take 2 hours out of our meeting, and it's like, no,
So is your motion to remove the one and maintain the others, or just to?
just remove the one, dissolve the fundraising committee.
Yes.
Make it working.
Okay, we'll keep it at that for now. Then if we want to have another motion on any of the other ones, then we can do that.
Yeah.
So the motion on the table is to dissolve the fundraising committee as a board committee
We seconded it.
with a second by.
Okay, so I thought there were questions about that.
But is there discussion? Did you have something, Dorothy?
Yep, so now discuss.
I just didn't understand. I thought Hank questioned you as whether you were gonna dissolve the fundraising and keep the rest of them. I thought that was the motion.
No,
Yeah, I just want to
he's
clarification.
just clarifying, but the motion is just to dissolve the fundraising committee, and then we can.
I
If
think
we need motions on the other ones, then we'll have motions on the other ones individually. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to dissolve the fundraising committee as a board committee. Do we have any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Lisa, were you a aye?
I, yes.
I vote aye. Motion passes. Okay, now, we have 3 others on there. And we've discussed possibly keeping those in place, but dormant. You know, because down the road, we may add an academic committee, we may not. These may be used if needed, or they may not, but they would be in place with these people that we currently have listed. So we need just more discussion on that, or if somebody wants to make a motion to change or remove any of those, I'd entertain that.
I guess I don't really care one way or the other.
Okay, so we can leave them as is, so we don't need to do any more action on those.
You don't need a motion for that?
No, because they're already in place.
They're just gonna be there.
You know, it's like the shirt that's been in your closet for 2 years that you've never worn. If we don't need these, we can get rid of them later.
Correct.
And if we find we need something else, we stand it up. It's not a
Perfect.
terribly hard thing.
Okay, all right. Moving on to item B, review fiscal policies and procedures.
So fiscal policy. Joe and I talked about this morning, so there's not much. I just like to keep you guys abreast that I'm actually working and doing things, and I'm not watching soap operas all day.
Well, and this one is huge.
This is a beast, but Joe and I have a plan. So I talked about this just super quick last time, and I can do the same. There's 7 components that we have to have. The first one is internal control. And I spent a lot of time learning about this and writing, but then in conversation with Joe, we're going to simplify some of this. But again, this is mostly for your awareness and that we're working on it and that we're in these federal documents. A lot of this is for when we start receiving federal funding. We need to have all of these controls in place. And so just know it's a work in progress. And so like I was saying, I'll be out of the office starting in March. So my goal is when I leave on February 8th, on Friday, that I will be sending you a significant packet of things to review for the March 19th board meeting. And this will be one of those documents. So this is also just kind of giving you a heads up. It'll be different than it looks now, because like I said, Joe and I have a plan. but this is what it is. It's just all of our finances, and then, we have to talk about allowability of costs, so how we would, establish that we can spend the money the way that we want to spend it, because of course with federal money, there's certain things you can and cannot purchase. So we have to have that policy. We'll outline our accounting and financial management systems. This is what we're doing with CAM, right? They're doing a lot of that for us, so we'll have that established. These are some of the details I've started working up there. We have to talk about procurement systems, so how do we decide what vendors we're going to use and that sort of thing. I just realized this isn't the latest version, but that's okay.
We get the idea.
Yeah, and then we have to talk about audit resolution and who and how and when we get audited and what we do to fix any deficiencies that we have. Inventory management, how are we going to inventory and keep track of all the things that the money has purchased in the school and how that looks each year. And what do we do with our records? So we, this is like a beast of a document, but it's gonna be really good because it's gonna establish a lot of our systems that are important for us to be fiscally responsible. And what we do know is I don't know if that's an accurate statement, isn't most charter schools fail because of fiscal stuff. So we wanna start off strong on this, so we minimize that chance as much as possible. So just be prepared, more to come. And it'll be just a lot, but it's important that we all, and as the board, I think it's important you guys are all on it, so that if and when, probably realistically more when, but if something arises, you guys are in the loop, so we can quickly nip it and fix it and be, not get ourselves in hot water.
And we're getting, so you just got EIAA's policies, and we should be getting Oasis Academies tomorrow.
Where did this policy come from? Because I read the whole thing today, I thought it was very complicated and obtuse.
It's
Yeah, that's what we're
very
gonna,
wordy. I thought,
Oh,
we
sure.
talked about that it's,
it's the green
there's a
book.
lot of description. There's a lot of stuff that's being defined versus just saying, here's
Yeah,
procedure.
giving you a procedure. to, like, I mean,
So we're gonna
it was
separate it.
extremely wordy.
We're gonna
Yeah.
just-
I'm just
We're gonna
saying,
separate it up.
you want somebody to read this,
Yeah,
51 pages was a bunch.
it's gonna be
It's gonna be like, oh,
continuous
practice.
So that's what we're trying to do, is condense it, be more specific. We want to get the existing policies, because the board policy shouldn't be explaining, defining everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may be something that's for out there, but we need to actually have a specific policy. Who does what? When is it done?
Yeah.
What's required?
And there's a lot of typos, but I'm assuming that's.
Yeah.
Incidental.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got about 3/4 through it, and I called Randall and said we need to.
Or we
Some more
these, so I didn't
examples.
read those.
Sorry.
Well,
The ones that already approved and used it.
But you learned a lot.
no, I didn't. That was my point. I didn't.
I looked it up.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, it's hard. Policies have to be a little more concise.
Yeah, streamlined and, yeah.
Okay, so more to come on that.
Yep.
Review English learner, EL policy and handbook.
So this is same, not ready actually for your super solid review. Kim and Amy and I are going to work tomorrow morning to finish this policy and then align it with a policy you haven't seen yet, which is called special student policy. And so we will, that's what the three of us are gonna work tomorrow, and we're gonna align them, then you guys will review them. And these are more structured by the state, and so, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
More to come.
Unless you guys have specific questions. But we've had this, on this note, however, we now have had 3 families apply using the Spanish application.
Oh, yay.
So this, like I said last time, this hopefully will actually get to implement in 2 months. Yeah, so that's encouraging.
Okay.
Is there anything else on EL number C? Number C, review employee handbook, item D.
So this has been this went to legal review. I have not heard back from Katie on this. Joe mentioned the one thing he caught was that under benefits, there wasn't, anything about PERS. So I reached out to ask, founders, and they said because PERS isn't considered a benefit, which I thought was interesting. So they're checking to see if it truly is a benefit and we need to have it and they need to add it. Or if it's not a benefit because we're a state entity, so it's an assumption. So anyway, we're working on to answer that question is all I'm saying, Joe.
Would it be if it's not?
Well, it says that.
So anyway, other than that, I'll let you know when we get back with legal.
That wasn't mentioned in there anyway. I mean, this is stuff we're offering our employees. I mean, we have to describe it in there somehow that we are paying money into a retirement account for them.
Yeah.
But it's not an option for us to not pay and for them to not accept. I mean, it's a given.
It's a given. It is.
Yeah.
We have to.
See, this is why we need wordy documents with lots of definitions.
No.
No.
So.
Read all
it's
these
a little
documents today.
bit-
Just telling you.
Well,
Yeah, that's
the
PERS
key.
has changed, right, since we entered the system because they got, wow, I think teachers can choose some options now, not just the options we had. I don't know if they have to.
And then we
completely
just
be-
bumped up the dates and changed some things
There's
around.
some differences, but it's a thing
That's
we
interesting.
are required to do that we need to spell out that says we are doing it.
So will
Either
we,
in the contract.
Let's see, because if it is just a mandatory thing, maybe you don't need to. And you have other things in there.
Yeah.
this is under 7, so we have medical, dental, vision, group, short-term,
All that.
voluntary.
The only thing with all of
Fill out all
those
these.
can be different for different
People have
districts
choice.
where we,
Yeah.
hers is locked in. I don't know, that's fascinating.
The only choice you have with PERS, at least as far as that Amber and I just walked through, is it's either 100% employer paid or employer
Yeah.
paid. So you get to choose which of those paths. That's the only choice. It's not if you're going to, it's which path do you
Yeah,
want.
so that's a benefit if you went 100%. So yeah, that's fascinating. I don't have it. All right, that'll be interesting.
So yeah, stay tuned and we'll just keep walking down this path with this handbook.
Yeah.
The really good news that's really gonna excite you guys is that you'll also get the student and parent handbook next time. So I just want to throw that out there. You guys are gonna have.
I'm not reading it.
You like that. So it too has,
That'll be bad too.
a lot of these similar parts and pieces, so, but we're getting there.
On that, sorry to jump ahead on that, we were just thinking about it, are we getting parent input on any of that? Do we need to get parent input on any of that, or is it just established by us?
Well, we don't have any parents yet, so maybe after we have our lottery,
First year.
we could put it out there. So I think there's value to that, but we would have to wait until we actually have families. I wouldn't want to put it out just to the mass public for comment.
Well, it might be good to start with a template that we do here and then have it, have the parents look at it after year 1, something like that.
Yeah.
Revise it, or something like that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, I think there's value to having parents, but the timing would matter maybe on that.
okay, number 9, new business, discuss possible land donation.
This is real simple, you guys, just, Rex, wanted you all to know that he has, spoken to the guy that is, financing what's it called? Ruby Vista Estates out in Spring Creek. So it's all the stuff to the right of the highway, from like Spring Creek High School farther down. And he would consider donating 20 acres of land right across from the Boys and Girls Club to the school.
In Spring Creek?
Yes. But Rex does not want to go back and talk to him if nobody wants to do the school out that way. He doesn't want to put that out and have him say that he'll donate the land for sure, and then have the board say that they don't want to do it in Spring Creek. So that's the nuts and bolts of it.
We have a map or anything so we can see where it's at.
Well, there's certainly a map available, but it's still in the discussion phases, Joe, and it's right, it's the Boys and Girls Club, it's right across the road from the Boys and Girls Club in Spring Creek. But certainly a map would be available if you're willing to entertain that idea, but
I'm just confused because that subdivision is on the northeast side of the highway and this Boys and Girls Club is on the.
no, that subdivision's on that side of the highway. That's where the big W
Oh,
ring.
she's
So I'm thinking of different subdivisions.
Yeah.
The one that,
That way.
Janice, that's not the one that.
No, Janice and Sketches on the left hand side, farther down.
So this.
No,
There's
I-
the green.
okay.
So it's right,
This meeting.
yeah, it's right across this, yeah, and
So it's right
you know
in this
exactly
vicinity.
the perimeter of the property, I can't tell you, but it's across from the Boys and Girls Club and it's approximately 20 acres.
I think the Boys and Girls Club is like right around here.
What's the green?
That's the ballpark.
Okay, so when you come, we're coming left.
So
And
this is-
it's kind of, you know, just to, like, you guys have been to the Boys and Girls Club, it's a kind of a long ride back in there, so that's maybe something to think about.
Personally, I think it needs to be, you know,
We lost her.
what you call it,
It's a more populated area.
the more populated area, that's,
What's our distribution of currently enrolled or applied students from Spring Creek versus Elko versus elsewhere?
Right now. The vast majority are Elko. I think Spring Creek and other communities, maybe a handful compared to Elko.
there's the two.
It's over here at Dorothy, right? There's the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah,
There's all those both. There.
it's actually on this side, Joe, so, yeah, exactly.
So it's
Yeah,
just,
it's over there,
okay.
right, yeah.
Nice area, maybe for a satellite campus. The main reason, well, there's two lines of thinking. We eventually want to be a K-12 fully functioning school system. And competing with Spring Creek is more challenging because their data tends to be stronger. And, you know, I think that our best target audience and ability to really grow and meet the needs of this community is Elko.
And I think once you have buses.
Plus,
I don't think parents would be as really caring.
But that might be a dynamic that affects what Brandon's saying, we don't, people in Spring Creek don't have the ability to get here.
Right, we have a school in
Yeah,
Spring
the school
Creek
in
now.
Spring Creek, you may have a different.
Enrollment.
They have a K-12 Spring Creek school, but you draw mostly from Spring Creek, and I think those people are more satisfied with their local school than you have in Elko, where you're gonna draw. Because it's a choice that parents have to make to move out of a public school into a charter school.
Right.
And the choice is more, there's more of an appetite. I'm assuming something, but I bet if you looked at the parents who are homeschooling or maybe disenfranchised, the bulk of them are gonna be connected to the local school.
I could tell you, I don't know the number, but I've had tons of people ask me to have a school out there.
I believe eventually you can
And
have
it's not a either or.
Yeah.
It would be under the governance of one board, one school leader, which is essentially a superintendent with multiple campuses. And it could be, and I talked about that in the radio show because people have asked about that. You know, the expansion into that area. I also mentioned that SPCSA probably won't let us until we prove that we're functional and are achieving. But having infrastructure in place ahead of time, especially in that location across from the Boys and Girls Club, where parents can drop their kids at the Boys and Girls Club on the way to work, and then they come over across the road to school. After school, they're back at the Boys and Girls Club. There couldn't be a more ideal location, in my opinion.
20 acres,
Expansion.
20 acres is a lot of acres to build K through 12 on.
You bet.
And there's no stipulation as to when you would need to start building, I mean, they're not.
Yeah, there would be, I think.
That's your challenge.
Yeah, that would probably be.
They gave you 5 years, because then you'd start out there with the exact same model of a K-1-2, K-1-2-3, you know, and then start with small and work your way up. And
What would the timeframe be? What would they be looking at as far as starting to build?
I don't know, Rex, like I said, Rex is resistant to asking them if that's you know, I mean, he doesn't want to put that on the table if it's gonna be voted against at doing that. But, so I can't answer any of those questions, except that,
Right.
you know, it's one thing financially that would make sense there is that if that, and this is something Steve Lambert went on at very extensively on, is if you get the land donated, that gives you a really big financial edge as far as securing loans.
Yeah, sure.
And we don't have that donation in Elko.
We know what that land is zoned.
If the Boys and Girls Club's there, I'm sure you can change that.
It's not right, I mean, but currently,
I think it's, I guess you could, currently it's agricultural residential, which they,
I don't know.
because it's all, it was all
If he's,
president.
that's what you're saying, he's gonna build a subdivision or hopes to.
Well, it's, yeah, it's all, yeah, that's where the, you know, they've gone before the planning commission already and the city, you know, the county commission, and so there are plans in the works, but they would love to have a school out there in their thing. That makes, you know, us, makes things
Good
that much more,
development.
let's make their subdivision that much more attractive.
I mean, if there's a stipulation in that we have to build in a certain time frame, I mean, we're not gonna be financially prepared to build for a while.
A while.
Yeah, I don't think it's that, you know, my understanding is that, you know, he said that, you know, I think that Mike knows that we're here for the get-go, but I mean, if we're looking at not starting the second spring school till after we progress into our new digs here in Elko, that may be a long wait, right?
But you know, what about having like a sister school and having a different committee that would start looking into a charter school out there? Not us starting it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like a sister.
Well, the sister school would be under our governance. You don't need, all we need to do for a charter school out there was amend our charter. Saying that we are, it's just like what EIA did when they were here and they didn't have enough space and they had to put kids out at the other Boys and Girls Club. They had to write an amendment to their charter to allow kids to be housed in another location under their governance. Same with us here. If we decided to put some modulars on that property or whatever, short term, it's under our governance. If it's a completely different charter organization, then they have to go
Start over.
from scratch to do their own charter with their own governing board. It'd be like we'd have EIA, we have us, and then there's a completely third thing.
But
You just have this.
if they were motivated, if they're motivated and want another school out there and could use our application process. I mean, it's a long shot, but it's very enticing to.
But I think that wasn't really our goal, and it wasn't our goal as our vision for this was Nevada Classical Academy, Elko, Nevada Classical Academy, Spring Creek, Nevada Classical Academy.
Yeah.
You know, Winnemucca. So I think if we want to entertain that idea, and you know, it doesn't matter to Rex or me for that matter. It was just that to bring it to you guys for consideration, and you know, we don't have to do anything with it, but it's on the table, and you know, there's like I say, there's some big financial benefits to that, and I think there's a lot of, I agree with Joe, and I think there's a lot of people on, you know, the population of Spring Creek is not small anymore.
Right.
It's probably, as I bet you with all the surrounding areas, it's probably not too different than.
No,
Well, it's not a timeline. I think that it's a safe thing to do because I already know people in other counties that want to become satellite campuses, whatever sister, however that want to run through somehow this organization and call them with their name. So if there's not a, hey, you have to have the school built in 5 years, but there's an understanding that, yeah, eventually we're gonna have a satellite campus. It may start in the Boys and Girls Club. It may, we don't know what it's gonna look like, but if the land's there and they come, then we'll certainly build, but that doesn't come at the expense of Elko, this school and this expansion and eventually looking for land in Elko proper.
It's, funny to me that, you know, people are already wanting us to.
Yeah.
To do more.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I would really hate to miss that opportunity.
Mhm.
So I don't know what we can do at this point other than ask for more information from the person who wants to donate.
And then I wonder if we did get information, if there could be like a community presentation out of Spring Creek that of people that were interested in maybe starting to forming a committee or starting to look at another charter application.
See, and the EIA is busing kids from out there because they have an interest.
Yeah,
And so if, you know, the schools out there are underperforming, Spring Creek Elementary and Sage are what, ones and twos? So we already have a market with our, that fits our charter application. We can get property. It's just, you know, I know they've talked about, we have to prove ourselves before we can do it. So I don't know how long that period of time is, and if the builder is willing to, you know, hold it for us, you know, not build other things on it until for whatever time period we need to maybe ask the SPCSA how long they want us to wait before we can expand, and see if he'll agree to that.
Yeah, I think we have to have that conversation because when we expand, when we do realize that mission of having satellite campuses, NCAE, insert location here, or NCA, insert location here. Spring Creek's an obvious place to start because it's physically, geographically close. That makes it easier to control, and makes it easier to kind of keep everything going, you know, smoothly. There is a demand out there. 20 acres is a lot of land to build something on, and it's a huge financial boon to that process. But we're not ready for it yet, and I absolutely do not want to see us expanding too fast before we have this up and running like a well-oiled machine. And the number one reason businesses fail is because they expand too rapidly. And it's conversations like this that could lead us to doing that if we're not careful. So we just need to, you know, keep that motivation, that excitement controlled. And while I don't want to see this opportunity pass us by, I don't want to jeopardize what we're doing here to seize that opportunity.
but I think what I'm hearing though is that, I mean, I don't think, you know, we can always ask the question, you know, is that, I mean, I don't think that Mike needs to build on this in a year or go that quickly, but what I'm hearing, even from Amy and Kim, is that they think that when we're ready to expand, when this is up and running and working great, they want to keep the expansion in Elko, not in Spring Creek.
No,
No,
that mountain's chomping.
No, I'm talking about just this.
They're waiting to become a satellite.
we have to expand here. This building's gonna run out of room.
No, that's what I'm saying, but what I think I thought I was hearing is Amy said that she did not want to see the school, the expanded school go to Spring Creek.
Correct. I want to make sure this one is solvent and doing well and fiscally working well with the idea that you're gonna build a K-12 facility, just like kind of Ron did. At the same time, and then if we have satellite campuses, kind of like what Kim was saying, and they have a plan to become up and running, maybe it starts, like I said, at the Boys and Girls Club, and they've got 2 grade levels. And then but we have the property with the idea that we're going to then become 2 modules. And
But
then
you're
from
saying,
there, 4 modules.
Amy, you're saying, but what I hear you saying is you don't want to move out there before there's a school in Elko.
Correct. I think our main focus was Elko. I think our main application was Elko. With those other communities being satellite campuses, including Spring Creek. That's my personal opinion. I think the bigger need and the bigger population pool is here.
Well, I think we all agree we have to establish and be successful
At this
at
location.
this location in the eyes of us and the SP.
CSA.
Charter.
Right, before they'll allow us to amend our charter.
Mhm.
Okay, and part of that is going to be you know, what are we doing when we grow out of this?
Yeah.
You know, we have other options. We talked, I think I mentioned that the EIA's land that they had floor plans for a new school. Whatever happened to that, then they went to the facility they are. Well, the sale of that property and that floor plan are now back on the market potentially. So we have options to expand in Elko. Spring Creek, you know, it is down the road. I mean, we have to, and it may not, there's a possibility it could not happen if we fail here, right? But if we can, you know, that's on the table. We can kind of get it to stay on the table so that we don't lose it for 4 years down the road, or 3 years, or 5, or whatever it might be. I'd like to see us, you know, keep it on the table. That doesn't mean, you know, we're moving everything from here to Spring Creek. That means that's just another place where kids can, you know, come to
What if you
school.
started it, what if you had a public information session out there and said, you have the opportunity for this land? Is there anybody in this community in Spring Creek that would be willing to apply as a charter school? Maybe not under us, but with the same
Do it.
blueprint.
Same
The
application.
EIA could
Yeah.
do the same thing, right? They could say they'll take that land
Right.
and expand their facility because they're pretty tight with the Boys and Girls Club right now. That's something where they might say they're gonna do it.
Yeah,
But
the
that-
developer may not want that, they may want the.
That land is being offered to us. It's not being offered to another charter school.
That we know of.
No.
That we know of.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, they could do a similar thing, right? They could ask a developer, because we know that other 700 or 800 acres across the road, they put in for subdivision for that, which got approved, right? And that was one of the things I thought about, was asking that developer to set aside land for us, because there's gonna be, I don't know how many houses in that subdivision.
That's also a Spring Creek or here?
It's past this location, past the horse palace turnoff.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I think 900 houses, I think.
Well, they made them increase the size of the lots, so now there's gonna be less houses, but they did approve it with the increased lots, with the increase to 10
Tens,
Oh,
10 acres instead of 2 or whatever they have.
yeah, tens.
You know, and all of those they're just starting, so by the time you start building houses and stuff, but getting these developers to set aside land for schools, the school district may be asking them the same question, right? You just keep expanding out there, you got to set aside land for us. So if we, I don't know, I'd like to hear more. And not lose it, the opportunity if we could. But knowing that we're not expanding tomorrow.
No, you know, Mike knows that
Yeah.
it's not, you know, it's just, Rex just didn't want to go to him and say, will you donate this land, if everybody was opposed to having the school move to Spring Creek instead of stay in Elko. So that was basically.
yeah, if that's the option, but he says, I want it all to be out there, I don't agree with that. Cause I think we could probably get developers here that would give us land too, they all want schools in their subdivisions, that's, you know, heading out by Adobe or something like that.
I think the people in Elko are assuming that we'll have a school in Elko, the ones that have applied and.
Let me explain from my Battle Mountain context, the team that's working there's already a working team. Is going to put in an application, or they're gonna start an application, they plan to come discuss with you guys the idea, they would be their own school, but a satellite school using their curriculum. Until there's a possibility, so like, there's already an appetite out there, we probably need to agendize it. And say, how are we gonna approach these different satellite campuses that come with, hey, we're gonna be called Nevada Classical Academy Battle Mountain. We're gonna have our own, but we'd like to look if we can, we would like to do training. We'll come to Elko for training, but we're gonna be our own campus. So we need to maybe have at some point, doesn't have to be for a little bit, but there's Wells, Spring Creek, they're gonna wanna have a satellite campus.
Sounds like we need an expansion committee.
Not yet, but yeah, we can agendize maybe y'all.
I mean, we're almost to the point already where we're gonna say, okay, the expansion committee is gonna start looking
Or the team, the working team.
It's gonna be outside and then that stuff gets brought to us. I don't know that we're there quite yet, but mainly because we can't. The SPCSA is not gonna let us do anything until.
Right, we've got to be this successful for the next at least 3 to 4 years, I would think.
In a year.
And that's why Battle Mountain says we'll just do our own complete, because they don't want to wait for 3 to 4 years. They said, we're gonna put in our own application, but we're going to try to share with Founders and the CAM and that, but we're not gonna put the load on. Right. Elko, because it's not fair.
I was just feeling this weight. It's coming down.
Yeah, we just have to wrap our head around, at some point, there would be need more administrative help, and that would put us in financial peril.
Well, I think a couple of things I'm thinking. One, we don't want to lose an opportunity and we may need to think outside the box because 4 years is going to be here like tomorrow. And we cannot like be like, oh, hold on, everybody, we got to figure out a school. So I think there's some advantages to thinking into this and it may be out of the box thinking and we may have to, what's the right word? I'm going to say it wrong, assuage our families. Like, I think we don't want to miss this opportunity. So I think we want to say we need more information and help us understand you being the developer's expected timeline, and then we can have further conversation. The other thought that from this conversation is we don't want to dilute Nevada Classical Academy with other people. We don't want to become competitors of our of other groups that are trying to serve children, because we're going to start to dilute what I think, if I understood correctly, what this group wanted to start. So like, we want Nevada Classical Academy, Battle Mountain, we want all of these, we don't want separate groups out there. We being the larger Nevada Classical Academy wants to, I think, hold tight in some ways to that. And then, yes, we drive putting it out there with the groups that are interested. Because we don't want multiple applications going into the charter, because that's going to dilute us, I think, unless I'm understanding something. So I think we need to be very careful. I think you're correct in that we need to talk about what is the expansion plan and how does that look, both physically for grades 5 and above, as well as satellite campuses. I think those are distinct issues that both need to be flushed out well. And then strategizing, if we have the opportunity to build that for 2 years, 6, 7, and 8, Elko may have to meet out there until we get a full Elko school. Then we bring the Elko kids back and we figure out transportation. So you guys, we'll still all meet at 1031 Railroad Street, but we'll bus them out. And then for 2 years, we meet out there, because what if we could build the K-12 school out there for Spring Creek, work out there for a little bit, and then we bring Elko back, because I don't know that much about construction, but I find it hard to believe that in 4 years' time, we're going to build out a K-12 school in Elko. I don't know, miracles happen all the time. So I'm wondering if this is like a gift that will help us transition, but we may have to kind of, zig and zag to bring it back to Elko. And I think if we are communicative with our parents from the as much as we can, and like I said, we coordinate transportation, I think it's not that far, like in the big scheme, we're not moving them to Mars.
Correct.
So anyway, I feel like this is an opportunity of a lifetime that we don't want to miss, but we just need more information.
So before we get too far in the weeds, I mean, obviously we don't, it's the expansions down the road. So if you want, I can just try to get you some more information.
I think so.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, we don't have to make any big decisions. We'll just see what their priorities are and how, what they're willing to do.
Awesome.
We should get some more information, and we should also get somebody who's been part of the overall facilities search to go and put eyes on the location, go out there and have a look, so that we have a better idea.
A field trip.
Information.
Well, I'm on my way out there shortly.
It'll be dark though, so.
Hold the next board meeting out there.
No, it's just open land.
Good
It's
discussion.
just a flat, open
Yeah.
piece of property, ideal.
By the school.
I mean, and that's like a lot of it. If it's a flat piece of land that you can have 20 acres of school, because there's a big difference, right, between 20 acres that's hilly and 20 acres that's functional,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's a big difference.
And most of the infrastructure is.
And if it's already
both ways
infrastructure
available.
there, yeah.
Well, if you look at that map, you know, it depends on also, the question is where on that property. If it's right across the street from the Boys and Girls Club, yes. If it's way up to the top of the screen, where kids would have to, or, you know, to get to the Boys and Girls
Right.
Club, then
There's a lot of
that's an issue. So it's kind of where in that, that he would be setting aside.
Yeah, so we'll get a map. My recollection is Rex and I looked at the map and it was like right across the street.
Yeah.
But, I could be wrong. So, yeah, I just get, we can get some more information. Doesn't have to be done today or
No,
anytime soon, so.
I'm glad that, we have people looking out for us and
Yeah.
looking for opportunities.
Joe, what's the status on the old EIAA, drawings that were prepared for the land they didn't buy?
When I talked to Lori Lynch, she said, we're not using them and we're not going to, and you guys can have them if you want.
Which agenda
Can we get those
It's
locked down?
specific for that property though, that they have here. So that would mean pursuing that property for that, because the engineering of how that's all.
Yeah, but that can be modified for somewhere else a lot cheaper than being done from scratch.
But the K8 or K12, did they design that?
I don't know, because
I think
we know
K12
they've been
is
looking to try to expand the K-12. And I know that one of the members of our governing board, previous members, was working on a high school. And I don't know where that stands at this point. But so I don't know if that property was designed for high school or just K-8. So I can ask Lori about.
I think it was K through 12 actually, initially too, because I think they were thinking about going before Mike offered that building. I think they were planning on doing the whole thing there. But
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with what that property is or what it looks like or any of that, so I'll ask her about that, because that would be good. It's so expensive.
So maybe the agenda is just a discussion about expansion.
So do you want to do that in March or
It's
Just
totally up to you. I think.
when Dorothy feels like they can provide us more, do you want it on the next?
no, because,
so you'll tell me,
yeah, I'll just tell you, Rex is not gonna wanna put any pressure on Mike. Whatever he can get.
Whenever you're ready, I'll put it on the agenda and then.
I'll let you guys know, but I'll try to find exact bring maps in that way.
There's no
Yeah,
rush.
very good.
We're not losing because it's.
No, no.
Okay.
You know, as a certified teacher.
Not that I know unless, something's happening between.
So we're not gonna have any action on that at this point. Item B under new business, report from fundraising work group regarding plan and a refresher on how to solicit donations. So Teresa, I guess that's you. Fernando's not here.
and I have your planning a campaign solicitation visit on the screen and they have it in their folders.
Okay, great. There's a chance that my power is gonna go out. We're getting flickers here with this storm coming in, so hopefully it stays, but just wanted to give a brief update to this group. The fundraising working group met last week and we talked about fundraising and what it should look like and how, if we want to do a campaign, and sort of what the goal is for this particular fundraising timeline. And where we landed was that we are looking at doing fundraising to get us from where we're at right now to being solid for opening and for getting going for those first few months and being able to achieve all of the things that we want to achieve with purchases and with training and with just getting the school set up in the way that we want to do that. That number, that fundraising number, we're at about $100,000 is what we'd like to try to raise right now. And we want to do that in a way that's very thoughtful and structured so that we don't just open a full fundraising campaign, because we believe that we can raise that much money by asking, some specific donors if they'd like to be part of this fundraising campaign. Do a smaller outreach like we did with our initial fundraising, and then save the bigger campaign for sort of the next round, all the stuff that we were just talking about building another school or expanding the school. When we're really gonna need the big bucks in order to be able to make that dream happen. So what we decided and what we talked about it that we would like to recommend to the board is that our fundraising strategy is to have each board member identify a single possible donor, somebody that you have a connection to, who's on our donor list, and that each board member reaches out to one potential donor to request a donation for 2025. Dorothy has the list that we put together a couple of years ago when we first worked on our fundraising. And she's the person who will, who you can go to with whoever your contact is that you would like to reach out to. And make sure that we aren't duplicating efforts. We want to make sure that each board member identifies a possible donor opportunity and that doesn't cross over with anybody else. So Dorothy will manage that. In addition, we talked about going to local financial advisors and lawyers and others just to sort of spread the word that we're a nonprofit and people can do their annual minimum distribution from their IRA to us if they'd like to, or they can add us into their estate planning. There are just lots of opportunities there for NCAE to potentially receive some additional funds without a full-blown marketing fundraising campaign. We had intended to have Fernando here tonight or there tonight, I suppose, to go through the this one pager or 2 pages now about how to make an ask of a donor, planning a campaign solicitation visit. And some of the really great points that Fernando reminded us the other day when we were talking was we need to start with friend raising and then move into fundraising. We need to be out there talking to people about our mission and our school and why we're doing that and get people interested and invested in what we are doing. We need them to think of us as an investment rather than a charity, that this is a place where they can give their money and make a difference for the future, for the kids of Elko, for the future of our country. Make it personal for them. In addition, we talked about at some point in the future creating a signature event. What could that be? Is it some kind of dinner or family activity, something that we do every year that raises funds for the school and gets people thinking about our school and our needs and gets people excited about participating in something for NCAE. We'd like to hold off on that for now, push that, down the calendar a little bit and focus just on this sort of fundraiser to begin with. I think that we really have an opportunity here to ask people for specific donation amounts to say, hey, would you like to give us $25,000 to work on the playground? And we can put a name or a plaque or something out on the playground if they want to do that. Or would you like to give us money for classroom furniture? Would you like to sponsor the furniture for a classroom or sponsor the furniture for a grade? And let people give them a number that you're asking for. Hey, we're asking for $25,000 for student computers for these grades. And make it really tangible for the folks who would be giving their money. Show them that we are using it for a very specific purpose that is a necessity for our successful launch in the fall. So we also have the donor pledge form that when you go to make your campaign solicitation visit, you can give that pledge form to the prospective donor. and walk through with them who NCAE is, what the ask is, what our mission is, give them sort of your elevator speech. And ask them if they'd like to fill out that form. The form does include check boxes that they can check for some of these different options, if there was something specific that they would like to sponsor. And I still think we can take this in a couple of payments if we need to. Ideally, we get it all in 2025, but if they need to give us, if it's a big dollar amount and they want to give us some this year and some next year, we should accept it whenever they'll give it. So Brandolyn, if you go back to the planning campaign solicitation visit. These are just a few reminders for us as board members. The first one, step one, is to make your own meaningful gift first. It's much easier to ask for money when we have all given whatever is meaningful to us, and being able to say that, you know, I commit my time as well as my own financial gift to the school. Then number two, make sure that you make an appointment so that you can stress the importance of this meeting with the person that you're meeting with. You want to reach out and get on their calendar so that you know you'll have time to sit down with the person. I won't go through this all in detail. I'm sure Fernando would do it much better. But you have all the information here that you need. Step three, know who to bring with you. Again, for this first ask, we're all each should be looking for somebody that we have a relationship with. So it should be somebody that when you call or reach out to them, they'll take your call. They know that you're calling, or they'll call you back, so that you can get on their calendar. If you would like to, you can definitely take somebody with you, whether that's somebody else on the board who can help with talking points, or see if Brandolyn's available to share her enthusiasm for the mission, and excitement for the work that's being done. It's usually a good idea to go with somebody, especially if you aren't quite sure how to do the ask the first time. Step four is know the cause for support. Brandolyn has started a new draft of that case statement that we built originally for the Brighter Future campaign that we started with. So we're going to be updating that so that you will have a document that you can take with you to leave as the case statement. Step five, know the prospective donor. Again, there will be some connection at this step with knowing the person. So hopefully you'll have or the business, hopefully you'll have some of this background information already. If you don't, Fernando may be able to help with that, or somebody else on the board who might know the person a little bit better. Step six, understand the flow of the solicitation visit. Make sure that you follow a good flow for step by step to be able to get through the visit. Step seven, the ask. And this was stressed the last time we did this training, again, a couple of years ago, that you should go in with a very specific ask. And so when we talked about originally identifying potential donors, we talked about different levels of donation, possible donation contribution. So when you go in, you should be prepared to say, hey, we'd really appreciate it if you wanted to sponsor the library. That's a $10,000 donation. And then everybody could know that you made it so that we had books for our library. So there are some options there for how to leave the idea with the donor about what the amount is, rather than making them guess what it is that we're trying to ask for. Step eight is to try to close the deal and finalize the pledge while you're there. If they want to think about it for a while, it's recommended not to leave the pledge card with them, to set up a follow-up time to discuss or have a call to finalize the pledge. And then at the end, make sure you thank the donor And if they do make a contribution, then NCAE will provide a thank you to the donor within the 12 days. So there's a lot of great information here in this visit step by step. And I hope that it helps all the board members feel like you can do this. And that you have the tools that you need to go for a successful visit with a potential donor.
Can I ask some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so on the pledge information card, my concern is we get 20 people that all want to give to the music program and we have more money than we need in the music program. I wonder if you do a little box on the side if they could rank them. Like if we already get enough to the music, can you do a 1, 2, 3? You know, 1 under playground equipment, and then maybe we can add construction or something in there. Because we may tap these out. We don't need $300,000 for student computers. So if they put a 1 on student computers, but they're also comfortable with a 2 on textbooks and a 3 on uniforms for kids. And then we add some of our bigger asks too, because we just don't need that much in a lot of these categories, but we do need quite a bit in construction. You know, if we do end up getting modules, that's going to be a big ask. So we add another little section and put school construction. Maybe somebody puts 100,000 in there. I just don't think we limit it to these things that you don't need. We don't need a lot in the music program. 25,000 would be a great one ask. We get 3 people who want to put in there. Have them at least put a 2 or a 3 in case. And then put the construction costs in there.
When we created this quite a while ago, that they didn't even have that group in there. It just was a donor form.
Yeah.
And so I added those kind of based on some of the stuff we were talking about.
Oh, I think it's great.
But it does need to be adjusted because playground equipment, you know, Lee gave $30,000 and at the time I asked him, you want us to put your name on the playground equipment or something like that. And he thought that was a good idea. So that brings up another question, because Lisa doesn't talk about that, like on step 9 on the thank you. What do we do like that for recognition? I know in the EIAA, if you give 25,000 to a classroom, there's you tell the person you're getting a plaque up on the wall next to the door of the classroom. So is there some levels or something where we say, in exchange for your gift, you get this type of recognition, whatever that would be? Did you guys discuss that?
Well, I know when we did the rec center in Battle Mountain, we used the same form because Rusty came up and helped us. This was 10 years ago, and this was the form we used, and we used it in Winnemucca for the Boys and Girls Club too. But if they gave like 100,000 or more, I think they got something named after them. But for the smaller ones, you can have 9 names for playground. But maybe we can have just a fundraising plaque that has gold donors, platinum donors, silver, bronze, whatever. Just so you don't convolute, run out of classrooms, but you got 25 people who put in 25,000.
Well, some of them, I know, like the Nevada Gold Mines, when I was doing the fundraising for the new fire station out there, they said, we're giving you this money and you will give us
Yeah, if it's big enough.
this recognition, some sort of a sign inside the building saying that we donated. There was 2 or 3 stipulations of things that they required.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to tell somebody, hey, if you do the playground equipment, we're going to put a sign on it that says donated by so and
There'll
so.
be a recognition wall or something.
They'll be recognized. And actually, we did talk about this, Fernando and Lisa and I a lot. It's just that we tried to narrow it down into something that we could bring to the board today to say, this is our goal, $100,000 between now and the start of school.
Yep. And
then as far as how we're gonna show recognition for people, that's something that we can continue to work on. But we, obviously we just had some parameters that we thought were important.
Yeah, maybe we just ask them, how would you like to be recognized? Some of them will say, I don't want to be, right? They want to be anonymous.
Exactly.
So they should, is that what we do? Just say, what would you like? Like to be recognized or?
I think another thing we could do is we could change what people are actually sponsoring on this form, and we could change it to, this is not creative, but do you want to be a gold level sponsor, which is 50,000? Do you want to be a silver level sponsor, which is 25,000? Do you want to be a bronze level? Something that equates to something, to our mission, or, we could name them somehow. And so we could give them levels where we're asking for sort of these same amounts of money. And then at the gold level, you get X recognition. Then it's very defined and structured, rather than sort of, and if they don't want any recognition, then they can opt out, they can opt their name out, but then at least it's consistent across different funding amounts versus going with necessarily something requested by the donor.
I think we do that, we do rank 50,000, 100,000, 30,000, 10,000, and then they can do a comment below. Is there anything specific you would like to see some of these funds go to? Because if they say I want it all to go to that, we can't guarantee that, right? But is there anything that you have a special that you would like to see developed? Yes, I want some of my funding to go to library, or was a passion with music, please support the music program, but we don't pigeonhole them in and pigeonhole ourselves in.
Yep. I think that makes sense. And the other thing is that we can still, when we make these campaign visits, we can still, check in with Brandolin and say, hey, how much do you need to really do top-notch teacher training? And Brandolin says, I need $15,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go into somebody and we'll say, hey, we really need $15,000. Can you guys give us $25,000, and 15,000 of that will go toward teacher training? And then we have a verbal conversation rather than having this form that goes out to multiple potential donors. And then, like you said, multiple people check the same box.
Yeah.
So this 100,000 that you want before school starts, how are we handling that? Is that like, if it is requested to go to teacher training, for instance, is that just going directly into the operational account and Brandolin earmarks that, or what's the plan there?
I don't think we had a plan there, Hank.
Yeah.
I think that our goal was we're just in step one of trying to do this little task force or working group, so.
I like.
I think that we just, thought that we're, our funds right now, that we just transferred a lot of those funds most of the funds out of the donation account. So our goal was just to provide, we arbitrarily set $100,000 in our little group meeting, saying that we're gonna need some more funds come September 1st. And so if we can all, like we said, we thought a good way to start this procedure would be just for each board member to identify a couple of people that they could go to and ask for a donation. And then before we get, the list that we have that Rusty compiled for us is like probably 2 pages long. But what Lisa was saying earlier, I would just be the person that you would come to me and say, I have this person and this person that I'm going to ask, so that Joe doesn't go to those same people and ask them.
Right,
So
I get that, but I want to make sure that when these people start getting money, whether it's really earmarked or whether it's, preferentially ranked, I just want to make sure that we're able to make sure their money goes where they want it to go.
Sure, yeah, and I think.
Well, somewhat, because we're gonna be in the red 100 and how much thousand by this summer. Right?
Not 100,000, but yeah, we'll have,
It was close to that on the budget presented, so.
well, we've got quite a few donations since then, so that picture's changed a little bit.
Okay.
But I think we originally agreed that all donations start in the EFCU donations account.
Right.
So that Mark's tracking them and we know who's earmarked, and then that's when I would come and say, hey guys, we're getting low, let's bring some over for X, Y, and
I think
Z.
we should always keep it that way. If it's a donation from the community, then we put it in the donation.
Yeah, and then you send it over.
Super plain.
Does that answer your question?
Partially, there will be in the future some uncomfortable conversations we'll have to have or you need money for something, and I say, well, I don't have that much money to give you for that because all this money is earmarked for something else.
Right, absolutely.
So as long as we're comfortable dealing with those conversations in the future.
Sure, if somebody, expects to see their money, visually see what their money went to. And we say, well, sorry, we had to use it for something else.
Right.
Try to avoid earmarks as much as we can.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yeah.
So another reason to get rid of that, like information
Yeah.
section.
Yeah. And I think the other key piece is that if we want as many unrestricted funds as possible.
Yes.
So how do we ask people for money and just say, hey, here are the sorts of things that we need money for? And it's much better for the school if they can be unrestricted so that we can use them across a variety of things. And then hope that it's only the one or two who actually, require it to go to one place and that the majority of it remains unrestricted.
And with the current state of the school, it's a really good time to do that because you can bring people in that can use their imagination and see that, well, if I've contributed this, my money's gonna go to pull this thing up.
We're gonna see it. Scale.
Exactly.
And I think the case statement, we've rewritten it a little bit broader, so it's the success of the school, like the community donations is the success of the school, not a specific thing, right? It's educating children holistically. That's the message, not that you're gonna buy books. I mean, to try to move people away from the material and into the community benefit.
That's a good idea. Okay, so the goal is
Okay.
100,000 by September, no?
And we'll get an update of the form in the next.
Yeah, so Lisa, are you gonna update the form or you want me? Who's gonna update the form? Maybe that's a big question right now.
I'm happy to update it. I don't know that I have the most recent version as an editable document.
I'll send it to you right now.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I don't think, we don't really need any action too much of this. Yeah, we've got a plan, and if we need to have a motion down the road for something, then we can do that, but otherwise it's just a framework, where we can start.
And you said you have a list?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you'll,
But the way we wanted to start it was rather than give that list out, because Fernando was very specific to us that that's really privileged information. And we probably shouldn't am I right, Liz? We should
Yes.
not distribute this list.
We
But if you-
will not be sharing or distributing the list.
But if you come and say, well, I'm gonna go talk to Jim Meigs, well, yeah, I can look down that list and say, yeah, he's on this list right there. Okay.
really want to talk to, actually.
Me too.
You need to get. He says he's going to,
Remember, I talked to him at the store that day, you were with me.
yeah. That was one on my list. So.
Yeah, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just that I was gonna try to be the, like, I've been all the time, just the sort of the little wheel spoke there that people can come to and say, I'm talking to this person and this person, and
Okay, so if you know you're talking to someone or want to approach someone, just contact Dorothy.
yeah, and that way.
And that way she'll say, well, somebody else is already planning on asking them or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's it, yeah.
all right,
And-
thank you.
And one of the key takeaways here is that we're asking this of every single board member. That every single board member identifies their contact, talks to Dorothy, and then goes out and does this ask. And then reports back to Dorothy and to Brandolin.
Okay. All right, anything else on fundraising? So we don't need no action on that. All right, thank you guys for your work on that. Hopefully Fernando made it back from, coming back from Salt Lake or something. And it looks like it's storming. Right, item C, discuss teacher contract training stipend plan.
So this was a little bit delayed because I was waiting for founders to get back to me. I just realized I should probably not put this up.
You don't have it in here, is it there?
Yeah, there's nothing in there because I literally just got this today.
So this is just information at this
This
point.
is just information. So this is their teacher contract. Like, this is it. So, they purposely keep it super simple.
This is Founders?
This is Founders. So they talk, they say, this is what you're gonna do, here's your contracted days, here's your offer, and then they confirm you're an at-will employee, here's the retirement, so here's the PERS is here. Here's your benefits, here's your personal leave, sick leave days, confirming this within 10 days, you're part of our team, and then this says you're under contract, but somewhere in here it talks about stipend too, that you have so many stipend days.
Go back to the top, I think.
Is that where it was? I lost it in my.
And 8 add-on days.
Oh yeah, here, wait, here, 8 add-on days. So this is how they handle the stipend. So we were talking about our budget in our budget conversations, and I can't remember, it's either 125 or 140 or something like that, dollars a day for stipend per teacher that we tacked onto our budget to cover all of our training. So ours would look a little bit different, but so then you put all that together and that becomes their offer.
Nice.
So this is a lot simpler than I thought it was gonna be, so.
Humboldt County's was one page too. Our
Yeah,
contract.
they're pretty simple. So
I could send yours.
on the training, that's in the summertime, are we just considering that part of their contract, or are we saying?
No, it's stipend. Those are the stipend days.
Why you're doing it that way, instead of just saying you're contracted for X amount of days and these are the days we expect you to work?
Well, I think one possible reason would just be because hiring in the timing of everything. I think it keeps it cleaner that the contract is related to the school year, and then the stipend days are for the pre-training versus having a contract that starts in May 31st and goes all the way through. Plus paying wise, I don't know if we'll have I don't know how the state money works, and the timing of that, and started, can we even have a contract with them before July 1st? This contract, they don't start their contract until, oh no, this one's August 2nd.
So those training days aren't subject to PERS.
Right, as stipend usually.
Okay. So that saves us,
A little.
so their contract would be less, we've got expectation is you will attend those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be.
That's a stipend.
Yeah, and I think the stipend gives a little more flexibility. So for instance, there's one of our applicants is a trained classical education teacher, so she really doesn't need to come up. Maybe, I mean, I think for team building, it would be amazing, but content perhaps different. So maybe stipend also allows us to have more flexibility for the people.
Especially year to year, because
Yeah.
so next year, they're not all gonna be required to attend all the trainings that they did the first year.
Perhaps.
So the stipends would be more
I
flexible.
think it gives us flexibility, is how I see it, mostly is flexibility. And then we know contract means school year, and that's you're expected to be here. Right, that's different than stipend where they have a choice, really.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll finish this, I'll tidy this up and then make it for ours. And then you guys can review it. This will be part of your package that you'll review for the next meeting. But like I said, this is hot off the press.
Any questions about that? Keep getting closer and closer all the time.
Every day.
Okay. Item 10, public comment. We don't have any public. Board member comments. Anyone have items? Hank?
Hello, I do have a comment. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yep.
I was up wearing my AirPods, but they ran out of battery because I've been listening to the whole meeting. It's Jan Boyer, and I just wanted to
Didn't
say,
you were on
wow.
there.
Yeah, I didn't mean to lurk but you went so fast past the first public comment. I didn't have a chance to say I'm going to be listening. So anyway, I heard the whole thing pretty much and learned so much. I'm just very pleased about this idea of the school, and I've been following you since August. I'm in the paper, you know, that I'm just a community member, nothing special in education, retired nurse like Dorothy, probably went to the same hospital there for a little while. And I just I was very interested in the music aspect and the you know, the classical aspects that you've talked about. I toured the facility with your new registrar, and just as a community person, looked at Hillsdale website. Your website looks wonderful, and I just want to visit now and then. I'll try to not to lurk in the background, but I enjoyed the meeting and learned so much. I hope everything goes well for you.
Thanks, Jen. Sorry I didn't give you an opportunity at the start. I didn't realize anyone was on remotely, but appreciate your joining in and listening. So
Yes, thank you, and I'm sure our paths will cross again soon. So I'll sign off and thank you very much.
okay, take care.
All right, take care. Bye.
Jen Boyer.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else out there? We had public.
I love it.
Okay.
I do have one more comment.
Okay.
Is our we?
Yeah.
Lisa and I were emailing back and forth about the board policy, and I said in the email that I felt like everybody else's suggestions were on target, and I didn't feel like I was qualified to give suggestions or offer input, because as I was reading through the board document for about the 10th time, it wasn't making sense to me. So what I did is went back to the board development conference in Hillsdale, and I started reading through it, and I had an aha moment. And I'm certain that you guys are way beyond this, but I still want to tell you. So as I read and reread the policies and procedures manual, I didn't have a firm grasp on the big picture of what a governing board actually does and how it operates. So I started going through the board development material from the Hillsdale conference, and I had a moment of clarity when I read the very first paragraph. It introduced the entire format of the conference. And I would just like to read that paragraph to you. Hillsdale College recommends a clear separation between governance and management, between boards on the governance side and school leaders on the management side. While this distinction is helpful, it often raises questions about the kinds of things that might fall between governance and management, including school policies and procedures. This matter can be further complicated by the correct understanding that the board shall govern by policy. And I wasn't catching on. I was not grasping that. Because this directive doesn't clarify if governance applies to all policies or just some policies. And the truth is everything that the board says is within its domain is probably within its domain. They're the final authorities on nearly all matters involving the school, but prudence suggests that not all policies and certainly not all procedures should be written at the board level. And then this is my PowerPoint.
Cool PowerPoint.
I love it. This is the next sentence that kind of solidified for me where I was having trouble understanding. The best models of policy governance are careful to define policy at a high enough level that management can establish the necessary policies and procedures at the day-to-day level of the organization. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think probably I'm at the lowest level of understanding the big picture and the principles of what a board does, but this just made a lot of sense to me. And I think going forward that it's going to help me when we maybe get into a sticky issue about our boundaries. And just as being the manager of the school versus us setting policy and then expecting you to implement that, I just think it's something that I'm going to keep in mind as we go forward. I just wanted to let you guys know that.
No, I think that's great. Appreciate that. We do get that explained to us often by the SPCSA that there's a separation, right? That we can't, like, I make recommendations or we have discussions, but I can't go and say, as a collective board, any of us tell her what to do, right? Individual, we do that as a group.
Yeah, and I think you can get bogged down in the details of, why did you do this, or how come we didn't know about this, and this to me was a good reminder of how to navigate that.
So a board comment follow up on that, it was the same thing with the county board, I just find this most diverse board that I've ever participated on, I've been on quite a few boards, but with the founding board, it's like every single person had such a unique role to play and it added value. And I've never really seen where there wasn't not duplication. And I feel like the same with this, hopefully Fernando doesn't move and his house falls through, whatever. But your insights are going to be so different because of you have a role as the teacher, but you were never really at these board meetings a lot. You're going to bring something that says, hey, watch this day to day. You've got that fiscal. I really appreciate. Never feel like, hey, there's a reason we're all on this board, and we're all really different perspectives, and it's very valuable.
And I think it's intentional by the SPCSA to do that. Boards, they say schools fail partially because of governance. Most of the time, it's because of governance. And I think, to me, what I've seen is we have a very functional board.
Agree.
We do disagree sometimes, but we figure it out, and it's kind of always been that way. And we educate each other, and I really like that. Like Amy says, we've all been on a lot of committees and boards and stuff. And, if it wasn't working, we would say, and I think to me, it's been great. So hopefully, and I just missed a call from Katie Patch. Just called me, and I don't know if she was trying to talk about the board meeting.
So she's trying to log in.
So there's a message, but talking to our founding board. So I just told messaged her that I would call her back. She said, okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Other comments from board members about?
I have just a couple of things. One, Kim, nice job. Thank you for bringing that up for us and a great reminder. I think continuing to talk about good board practices is going to help us a lot as we move forward. I am continuing to look at the bills that are coming through the Nevada legislative session. There is a bill specifically related to the SPCSA and the structure of the SPCSA that was in hearing today. Actually yesterday, sorry. And I chatted with Ashley Perkins about it as well. The bill looks fine. There's nothing that looks like it would negatively impact us in that particular bill. And it sounds like, I think Melissa McAdon may have even been the person presenting on it. So I think that one is just one to watch and know what the changes are going to be, but they're, again, not negatively impactful to us and no financial fiscal impact. There were some other bills that I looked at specifically related to charter schools and governing boards. It looked like most of them were not going to impact us. And when I talked to Ashley yesterday, she said there are some different bills that will have a fiscal impact on them. She signed up to be one of the voluntary schools to report back on if they thought that there would be fiscal impacts on the various bills. And so she's getting these regular emails on what those bills might be. And so she's better tracking the bills that could have an impact on charter schools. The one that she was showing me yesterday was specifically related to ESL teachers and the certification requirements for ESL teachers, and that there would be an added stipend for ESL teachers outside of everything else. So she had provided feedback on that, that there would be a fiscal impact. And it sounded like potentially a pretty substantial impact to them. And her best recommendation, Brandolin, was to see if we could get on the email list to review the BDRs. And she said to ask the SPCSA about that. So that might be a to-do for you, because then you could at least get an email asking if you know, an email notification regarding the bill having a potential fiscal impact or needing a review about whether it would have a potential fiscal impact on the charter school. That might be the simplest way to be able to track these, since many of the bills aren't easily identifiable as having an impact on charter schools specifically.
Okay. Okay, thank you, I'll do that.
We appreciate you following those. There was one, I don't know if it made it anywhere, but it had to do with equal funding for charter schools compared to public schools. Have you heard any more on that or seen any bills come forward?
I have not, but I will do another look through and see if I can identify that one specifically, but I did not see that one.
Okay, thanks. Okay, other board member comments? Amy, you have anything?
None.
Okay, I don't have anything. Next board meeting. We're skipping one, right? So the next board meeting will be March 19th.
Yep.
So we don't have one earlier in March.
We'll have a bunch of stuff to read.
A bunch of stuff will come to you on February 28th. So watch for that.
March 19th.
March 19th, yeah, same time.
Any other items? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Can turn off the recording.
Thank you.